Get hype. JK, Zoom is preparing to live stream the meeting, so you should prepare too. We are still preparing and we are done. Oh God, and now I'm listening to my own voice. Abort, abort. Okay, great, we're live.
We have a URL we can toss in the Discord.
Yes, we do.
Groovy.
Boop, boop, a do. And will our MCs please take it away? Thank you.
All right. Hello, 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 Waffle friends. If you haven't already read the nickname on my tiny Zoom screen, I'm Andy Tuba, one of our Waffle organizers. And we would like to welcome you to WaffleJS May 2020 online Strike of the Waffles. May the waffle be with you.
Yay!
Woo!
Sorry, I'm getting my shit together. So,
He's perfect.
if you haven't gotten your donut yet, I'm sorry we did not deliver them to your house. You'll have to supply your own donuts for the time being. However, thank you to everybody who bought a ticket because we are still supporting our favorite donut vendors in the city. We've been giving our donuttions to Johnny Donuts and also supporting Soma Street Eat Food Park because we would like them to still be there when we can meet in person again. Do we have a next slide? Yeah, so today we have 4 talks and a performance. On deck today, we have Gemma Lofi, several other cool people. Unfortunately, Andrew Kennedy is stuck on a page right now, so we are instead going to have our fabulous ukulele player, Max Goodheart, performing later. We also have Zygon Vector, also known as Jenna, Rodney Fulls, and all of you giving us applause after all of their talks. So etiquette for today will be, after a talk, feel free to unmute your mic, say hello to the kitties, applause. We also have our applause channel in the Discord if you want to drop more applause emojis in there. Next slide, please. We also are looking forward to next month. We will continue doing waffles online as long as the internet is still up. Also, June 2nd is my birthday. It would be great if you submitted a talk as a cool birthday present. The CFPs are open. You can send us a line at talks@wafflejs.com or perform@wafflejs.com if you want to present your talk or a cool performance like ukulele or guitar or tuba or a dance number or whatever you like. Next slide, please. We would like to thank our student sponsors, excellent people with a little cash to spare who are distributing that capital to our student friends who are ostensibly putting their money into staying well fed and getting classes. So thank you all for throwing some money to support the younger folks and the people getting educated. Next slide, please. Code of conduct. This is a very important thing. Even when we are online, and especially when we are online, we should still be excellent to each other. So, in more concrete detail, that means we want this place to be safe, inclusive, friendly, and be wonderful to each other. If you see somebody not being wonderful, feel free to report it in Discord to anybody with the, what do we call it, the staff role. You can send us a message on Twitter at WaffleJS. You can fill in this form, which will ping us, all of the organizers as well, or you can text us through our Twilio portal to report any bad behavior. Any bad behavior is anything where you're feeling uncomfortable and put upon. You get some more details at the WaffleJS website, but I will do the ceremonial reading of the quick version. So, in the style of Emily, WaffleJS is dedicated to providing a harassment-free conference experience for everyone, regardless of gender, gender identity and expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion, or lack thereof, or technology choices. We do not tolerate harassment of conference participants in any form. Sexual language and imagery is not appropriate for any conference venue, including talks, workshop parties, Twitter, and other online media like Discord or Zoom. Conference participants violating the rules may be sanctioned or expelled from the conference without a refund at the discretion of the conference organizers. So,
Also,
cool.
also drink responsibly, even at home.
Yes, especially at home where we have access to fridges. Back to the slides, please. And the next one. So this would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. This month's sponsors are 3 excellent companies. Today we are hosted by Mode Analytics, Twilio, and Typeform. So for Mode Analytics, I would like to take a moment and just share my personal feelings about Mode. I don't actually work for Mode, but I use it at work. It is a great product. I would like to show you how. And so Mode is first and foremost a really cool logo that looks like a villain helmet, but really it's a way to take data that you've got and stick it in interesting questions for your VPs. You can also answer Slack questions about Mode. Most importantly, you can make really pretty looking reports where you take data and make it visible to people even with color blindness. If you don't like graphs though, you really just like SQL, you can write some SQL. This will plug into BigQuery. We have a load of data. You can plug it into whatever data sources you want. And then you can make it draw stuff for you. So you just drag and drop stuff all over. And voila, you have 3 bars. They have different colors. One is southeast, one is west. So we have questions like, what is Q1 going to look like? Well, at this point we know. But what did Q1 look like? It looks like a Python notebook. So if there's anybody in the audience who works in data analytics, this is familiar. If you don't look in data analytics, learn Python. It will get you lots of money by using Mode Analytics. We can also learn how to sell stuff and then integrate it with Slack so that when your report runs, it'll drop into Slack, because now that we're all stuck at home doing tech work, we hang out in Slack all day. Some of the legitimately cool stuff is they'll, if you have a long running thing, it'll run it, at midnight when nobody's working, hopefully, unless they work in another time zone. But yeah, Mode, it's great. Talk to your VP of data science today. Applause goes in the applause channel. Thank you.
Thanks, Mode.
Mode is legitimately cool. I would highly recommend it. I've worked my way through a few different analytics tools in the past, and I'm pretty happy with Mode. So our next sponsor is, I think, Twilio with Tilda.
Hello, how's everyone doing today? So my name is Tilda. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio. If you haven't heard of Twilio, we make communications APIs. We got APIs for things like sending text messages, making phone calls, sending email, even fax. Now, our brand team, I feel like, might not be super jazzed about me using emojis instead of the official product logo, so nobody tell them I did that. Anyway, I'm here today to talk to you about Twilio Quest, which is our free educational 8-bit themed game that teaches you about Twilio APIs and general programming concepts. How it works is that you get a little character and you move around on a map, playing through different missions based on your interests, and then you collect points and different loot for your character and glory. Also, there is a polarizing original chiptune soundtrack. Twilio Quest is written in JavaScript. It is an Electron app, and additionally, there is a JavaScript mission. Some of the content for the JavaScript mission has already been released, and the remainder of it will be released next week. It's really great if you're like, say, a beginner and you want to dive in and learn more and you're really motivated by games, or if you're not a beginner and you want to help the planet, because we have paired up with an organization called One Tree Planted, so that if you play through the JavaScript mission, we will plant a tree in Australia, because coronavirus isn't the only bad thing happening. Like we had all those fires earlier this year. So while we're all stuck at home, you might as well, learn and do something good for the planet. So if you want to learn a little more, you can check out this blog post that explains the tree planting mission, and I'll drop the link in the Discord as well. Thank you so much and enjoy the meetup.
Hooray. Thank you, Tilda. Twilio's great. You also use their product if you ever need to send a text message programmatically. Like you could check out Tilda's blog post from last year about how to send yourself affirmations when you push a button, because we all need affirmations all the time, but especially now. Next slide, please, Poch. And our final sponsor for tonight is Typeform. So take it away, Typeform folks.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Nicholas speaking. I am a developer advocate at Typeform. On this picture, I thought we'll share it because this is probably the most studio picture I have of myself, where I look like a Madame Tussauds type of figurine, but I'm a developer advocate. I don't work at Madame Tussauds. If you haven't heard about Typeform, this is actually the tool that I'm using to do this presentation, which is not meant for presentation, but is meant actually to do interactive experiences, building surveys and quizzes in a more interactive and fun way. It's a company that was based in Barcelona, that was founded in Barcelona in 2012, and we opened a San Francisco office in 2018. So an office that we can't really enjoy anymore. We just moved to a new place, but it doesn't mean that we don't grow the team and we don't look for more people. We're actually hiring now in many different locations, both in San Francisco, Barcelona, or even remotely. We are looking for a bunch of different roles. So if that's your situation right now, if you're looking for changes and look at making a tool that's used by thousands of people around the world, come talk to me. In terms of JavaScript and things you can do, we are built on top of a JavaScript stack, but we also have APIs. So if you want to connect a Twilio and a Typeform together, you can do that through our APIs and have fun. Let me know if you have any things around this. And I just wanted to share the packages we just sent to all employees to stay home and safe, because it was last week, it was the Catalonian Valentine's Day called St. Jordi, and we know how to have fun with nice roses, olive oil, and a bunch of other things. So thank you, WaffleJS, for welcoming us, and have a good meetup.
Thank you, Typeform folks. Much like Twilio and Mode, I will vouch for Typeform being super easy to set up, super easy to use, and good for writing slides. Possibly better than Google Slides, who knows? Next slide, please. So here's the talks. I'd love to introduce Jenna Zeigen, also known as Zeigen Vector, to you tonight, so that we can hear about a fast talk on performance. So, Jenna, take it away.
Okay. Sharing screen.
I believe in
It is
you.
this one.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Looking
Okay.
good.
You see the side without the speaker notes, right? Great. Cool. So yeah. Hey, I'm Jenna Zeigen. My pronouns are she, her, and this is WaffleJS. And my talk is a fast talk on performance. A little bit about me. I am a senior front-end engineer at Slack, where I wrote a lot of the architecture that powers the autocompletes. So the quick switcher at mentioning someone, emoji picker, all of that stuff. So that's really great. I live in Brooklyn, so it is past my bedtime, as my phone just told me. And in Brooklyn, I'm an organizer of the WaffleJS analog, BrooklynJS. So that's pretty great. We have put ourselves on hiatus, at least up until now. So we're not putting on meetups. So this one's really awesome to be a part of. I'm also an organizer of Empire.js, which is a conference that happens yearly, or yearly more or less. Not happening this year because I think that would be illegal, and we're not doing it on the internet either. So yeah, you might also know me as from this tweet. I have some very large carrots in my refrigerator. So that was fun. So feel free to tweet questions, comments, compliments at me at ZeigenVector, and my slides are up at WaffleJS. Okay, so as I mentioned, I work a lot on autocomplete, and that is relevant to this talk because working on autocomplete has taught me so much about performance, mainly because autocompletes do a lot of stuff in an unbelievably short amount of time. And our autocompletes at Slack are doing the lion's share of the work on the client side. It's because we have these really long sessions and you're accumulating channels and people. All your emojis are already on the client already when you boot it. So we have all the information there on the client. So it makes a lot of sense to do these autocompletes on the client, which means that all of this performance stuff falls on us as front-end engineers in JavaScript to get all this stuff done within a reasonable amount of time. So here are some things that I've learned from leading the building of the most recent iteration of the architecture, which includes filtering all of these things that are on your client and sorting them to try and guess which one you're going to choose. So we're trying to predict which thing you're going to choose when we put it at the top of the list. And we pretty recently started using some machine learning in there. So that's a lot of work to try and do all in a reasonable amount of time. So the number one thing that I've learned is do less stuff. That is how you are going to make something fast, by not doing a lot of things. It seems really obvious, but you keep this in the back of your mind, it will really help you to build fast things. And some of these things aren't necessarily obvious, right? So an example of something that, only came to me after doing a lot of work digging into okay, why is this first pass really slow? Was, so we have all of these features in our autocompletes where we give certain things different scores, which is a basis of machine learning. So is the channel archived? Is the member deactivated? Stuff like that. And we had all of these features, and some of them would only apply to certain types of things. So, for trying to figure out, is this a deactivated member, we were doing that check on channels. And of course, that's going to come out not, why are you doing that? So we went through and figured out what can we not do here? Can we figure out what features are only going to have a fighting chance of working in what cases, and only apply those features, only make those checks for those things. So seems really obvious in hindsight, but that was one of the biggest things that we could do to make our autocompletes fast. And so next rule. Most people would say that this is the #1 rule, but I just love doing the do less is still my top rule. This is most people's top rule, which is measure first, act second. It's really easy to get caught up in this, I have to make my thing fast. I definitely have a performance problem, but it's really important that you crack open DevTools, you put in those window.performance timings, and try and figure out what, if anything, is actually slow. You might find that you have a giant bottleneck somewhere, and it's really targeted, or you might find like what I found when I cracked open the performance profile for autocompletes, that it was just like death by 1,000 cuts. It was like a lot of things that were 0.13 milliseconds. It's just like, all right, well, I have my work cut out ahead of me. So, you'll see what happens there, but Chrome performance tools are, your #1 best friend, or Firefox, or whatever tools you have available to you. Take a look, do some measurements, whether real users or synthetic, measure first, act second. Third top rule is to stash the answers to expensive reused things. So some operations are going to be more expensive than others. If you have to do a lookup or a calculation that you'll use multiple times, like say in a sort comparator, you might want to do that operation first and stash the answer so you're not doing these things over and over again, and that type of stuff like builds over time. In this sort case, because the comparator is called an order of magnitude more times than there are items in the array, it's good to pre-compute those expensive values before sorting, so you're not calling it multiple times. #4, top rule. Memory usage is also an important aspect of performance. It's really easy to think about performance just as like, I got to make my JavaScript fast. I got to keep these things out of sort comparators, all those render performance things, all of the classic things that you hear about, bundle size and all of that. But if it gets down to it and your users are only going to want to give you a certain amount of their memory, and there's going to be memory pressure from other things, other applications on your client, on your users' computers. It's important to keep an eye on memory usage in addition to big O. It's kind of like a rethinking of that classic trade-off of like storage over big O, but memory for us, as if you're working on the client, it's going to be an important aspect. Especially like something that I realized when working on these autocompletes is like, you can be really fast, but garbage collections are going to happen if you get up to a certain amount of memory, and those are sometimes the slowest things in your profile. So just keep an eye on that, and you might crack open your profile and see those garbage collections, and those have a tendency to be slow. And the last thing is ultimately remember that performance is ultimately about user experience. It's really easy to get caught up in performance for performance sake. Like, oh, I have to make this number go down because performance is good. Making things go fast is good because these numbers are supposed to be as low as possible. But you could run into a case where you're juicing performance at the expense of other things. So take a look at your user's experience holistically. So a good example of this from the autocomplete example is as I mentioned, we recently put in this like machine learning sorting thing, which was significantly slower, at least at first, than doing our first pass sort without the machine learning. And I had people coming to me being like, why did you do this trade-off? Like, why did you let it get 20 milliseconds slower? Like, these autocompletes have to be fast. But like, ultimately, we want our users to get the thing they're looking for as fast as possible. And making the JavaScript go really, really fast with poor ranking, if it's not like doing well on other things, really like still a poor user experience. So again, look at performance in service of everything else. So 5 performance tips from me that I learned in the real world. Thanks for listening. Again, feel free to tweet at me at Zeigenvector, and these slides are up on the internet at that link. Cool.
Hooray.
Awesome.
We'll unshare. Yay!
Thank you, Jenna. That was a super speedy and even better than clickbait way to get things running fast. We're going to take a quick moment to quickly go to our next speaker. Next up, we have Gemma Lofi telling us a little bit about Benham's disk. This is some super cool brain science. So prepare your eyes, prepare your ears, prepare to get your mind blown with Gemma.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about color and using Phaser 3. First, I'm going to go over like a little bit of my own background. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. My background is actually in physics, so I'm a solid state physicist, and I have done computational astrophysics as well as some optics. But most of my experience has been as an educator, so I've facilitated like a lot of different physics programs for all different kinds of ages, as well as I've been working at the Exploratorium for the past 3 years, where I've been doing like a lot of fun. So like my current experience right now is basically life at the Exploratorium. I do a field trip explaining, so I bring in about 1,200 to 2,400 kids when we're open. I do things like cutting open cow eyes, magic card tricks, drag plankton from the bay, dissect flowers, make speakers and clouds, and shoot lasers with kids. And then on the side, I also like brew some beer. You can kind of see over here. I play in our cover band, which is a Creep Show, and did like a lot of different kinds of exhibit maintenance, like making them look like Halloween things and adding skulls to stuff because that was fun. And I like to have fun and have color with my hair. So yeah, awesome. So now you know about me, just a little bit at least. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at this Benham's disk. So let me see here. Awesome. Changing over to another screen. There we are. And so you can kind of see a disk here. Unfortunately, this optical illusion doesn't work over Zoom. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and post the link in the chat. And hopefully that helps out. Let's see here. Can I even do that? Well, the link is definitely on something. Ah, there we are, chat. Hello, where did you go? I don't know. But anyways, you can get to the link. It's on the different descriptions. You can kind of see up here. I'm using Glitch to kind of like measure things. And if I pull it at full speed, it probably just looks really choppy. But that's one of the things you can do. I'm going to turn it back down so it doesn't look terrible. You can change the amounts of arcs. And what happens is that as this rotates, it actually generates color. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Exploratorium's page here about some information about the different disks. All the colors that you see when you're looking at these kind of discs is actually completely in your mind. And if you're interested, like come and visit the Exploratorium page, look at all the things, but you can also click on this link right here and you're back at my page. So awesome. And let's go and take a quick look at the code that I have here and using a little bit of Phaser 3 to draw some objects really, really plainly. So cool. So kind of just to get set up, oops, let me go back one there. So this is the entire JavaScript file. It's basically the two constants at top, the little bit of global variables, and these three functions. And that's everything. I'll go ahead and go through like a different bits here, but the three parts that we're going to basically be looking at are the configure file and the making of the game, and then these kind of scenes that we have below that are function create and function update, and then the spin function and how it actually draws some stuff out. So here you kind of just generally set up the canvas. There are lots of different things you can actually do with Phaser 3 as far as like arcade style physics or even playing with different kinds of physics, other kinds of like cool modeling stuff. And really, I've luckily found it pretty easy to work with, which is great because I have no JavaScript experience or any kind of like production or coding experience really outside of this, other than like a little bit of scripting that I did for physics and stuff. And so, yeah, I was able to like get this all set up here. And then we kind of go into our scenes here where I kind of make the two colors and I just kind of generally say what they are in the create function up above, where we have our graphics, which is just all white colors and describing all the white objects on the page, and the arcs that basically describe everything that's black on the page for the JavaScript at least. And then the update function actually calls basically every single update, which is kind of a little bit different. You could actually set the refresh rate, but at the moment I'm just letting everyone's machine do it what they want because I don't know exactly what I'm doing entirely, but it's fun, so that's great. And now here's the spin function. It's simple, obviously, it's the smallest thing. I'm joking. So we've got up here the very top, I'm grabbing up all of the HTML and I'm just kind of like looking at all the different values that are on the page. You saw probably a few sliders and a button, and that's what those top lines are really doing. I then declare time because I'm a physicist, and so I have control over that. And I modulate it at 360 because it actually makes it kind of easier to do rotations that way. And we're going back and forth between like polar kind of effects. So it's nice. Now, every single time you're basically drawing, you also want to make sure you cleared everything that you drew last time. So I'm clearing everything that was black and everything that was white on the top there with the graphics clear and the arcs clear. And then I have these for loops, and each one of those for loops draws a part of the circle. The top ones are drawing the black arcs on top of the white arcs. The lower parts are drawing the white arcs that you see, and then the black arcs are basically the rest of the circle that you don't see inside a little animation there. And I'll go ahead and take a quick look at one of those for loops. Cool. And so yeah, here's the overall for loop. It's got basically, I'm pulling back again from the create scene. And so we're looking like this is going to be black because I'm declaring the hex color there for it being black. Give it some width, tell it to be like, make sure it's fully shaded in. Cool. All that was from the create function. Right below that is that entire for loop, and that is the entire piece. I tell it to start drawing in black, this dot arcs. Then I tell it I want to draw an arc. I tell it where I want it to be. And so I give it the X and Y coordinates, which in this case is just the middle of the canvas. I then tell it the radius on the third line of the arcs, which is basically how am I drawing it. And because in this case, these are all the individual black lines that are being drawn, every single time the radius gets a little bit longer. And then I'm drawing like a little bit of each angle. And so all the angles are actually split up by the division and how that works out. And then I just tell it to draw it by telling it stroke path. So really kind of really simple. At least I found it really helpful and really simple to really get started with this entire like setup. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the fun thing. I would suggest, going and playing around a little bit with the actual drawing because it's pretty cool and fun to check out. And I thought I'd leave you all with just kind of like a little bit about like a cool quote. I got this from one of my colleagues recently, and it's basically, nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. And that's by Mary Curie. Yeah, thank you. And if you have any questions, I guess I have time.
Hooray!
Yay!
Thank you, Gemma, for a
So
delightful
awesome.
dive into the Exploratoriums. My favorite Exploratorium thing, which I should not be afraid of, is when they set up a compost bin that you could just shove your hand down into. Super cool.
That is all of our coffee that we drink, actually. And sometimes it's the beer that we throw in there as well. So yeah, that is the coffee that we drink as employees at the Exploratorium that you get to shove your hands in.
I'm
Nice.
glad to upcycle your coffee grounds. That's pretty rad. So yeah, we are now through the first half of WaffleJS May 2020. So now is the time to go refill your drinks, hit the bathroom, ask Gemma, and I'm not sure if Jenna went to bed or not already, but you can chat in Discord. If you're on Zoom, feel free to chat there. Discord also has the voice channels if you want to like go chit chat in there. But yeah, we'll hang out and be back in at quarter after.
My cat ran away, so I can't show you guys her anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, but the little white one that I showed you guys at the beginning of the stream, her name's Lila, and she likes meowing in the ceiling.
I am going to mute everyone here, and so that we go over to the Discord, just so that our like chit chat doesn't stream on YouTube.
Okie dokie.
So head on over to the Discord.
Oh, I am. This is just doing a sound check. Does that sound okay?
Did you just say body socks? Oh, dude, it's a classic.
Hello, 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 our waffle friends. As you are
Hi,
coming,
Andy.
hello. How was your intermission, Lexi?
It was good. We have chili.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
It is.
Well, now is your time to chili and chill with Max Goodhart, who is not, in fact, Andrew Kennedy, because Andrew's still busy. But we're glad that Max can hop on with his ukulele. So, Max, what do you got to play for us tonight?
I've got a song called Everything Stays from Adventure Time. You might recognize it. I want to give a quick shout out to Andrew. Unfortunately, he's fixing some fires at work right now. And that happens, and I feel bad for him. So let's send him some happy thoughts, and hopefully he can perform for us soon. He had something really special lined up. Not as special as this. I haven't picked up my ukulele in a while, so this is going to be an adventure. An adventure time, that is. Let's go. Let's go in the garden. You'll find something waiting right there where you left it, lying upside down. When you finally find it, you'll see how it's faded. The underside is lighter when you turn it around. Everything stays right where you left it. Everything stays, but it still changes ever so slightly, daily and nightly, in little ways. Everything stays. Everything stays right where you left it. Everything stays, but it still changes ever so slightly, daily and nightly, in little ways. When everything stays ever so slightly, daily and nightly, in little ways. Everything stays. Thank you.
Yay!
Yay.
Well, that's delightful. Thank you so much for bringing a little universally wonderful music to our life tonight.
That was fun. Thanks for listening.
Hooray! Glad we talked into bringing out the uke. And hug ops to our friend Andrew. We hope to see him next month.
Yeah, I'm really excited about his performance. You should definitely tune in next month. He's got a looper setup with electric guitar that is really cool.
Well, let us do a little loop-de-loop over to the second half of WaffleJS. I would like to introduce you all to our third speaker for the evening, Raymond Sohn, exploring JavaScript tagged template strings. Take it away, Raymond. Also, you should unmute. And then you can carry juggling both slides and balls.
Hey, I'm Raymond. My pronouns are he, him. I write JavaScript at Wootrick. It's a platform for gathering and analyzing customer feedback. Yeah, tonight we'll be exploring JavaScript tag template strings. Hopefully by the end you'll know what they are, like how they work, and a few of the really useful things and a few really useless things you can do with them. So let's start. Well, first we need to know what are template strings, because tag template strings are a more complicated version of this. So what are they? They're sort of a new addition to JavaScript that allows us to mix variables into string. So before, we had to put together strings using the plus operator. And so I have some prompts. So in the old days, we had these two strings, and then all we had was this plus operator, and then we would throw them in a bowl, mix them around, and then we get our string like this. But now things are fancy, and we have this new syntax, tag template strings, and they're, if you notice these backticks, that's how you tell JavaScript this is a template string. And then it has like this hole for where you put in your, your other strings. So we can put this in, and it's just like that. Yeah. And so what are tag template strings? So tag template strings are kind of like a burrito. Stay with me. A burrito is like, familiar ingredients wrapped up in a tortilla. So I have a tortilla here. And what they are is a template string, and then something you're all familiar with, a function. So it's a 2-ingredient burrito. And then we just roll it up, and we have a delicious tag template string. Yummy. Okay, so let's look at a real example of a tag template string. This is the GraphQL tag. So what's going on is that I'm defining a GraphQL query. Now, what blew my mind about this was that it actually doesn't return a string. And that's sort of the cool thing about tag template strings, is you can return whatever you want. And so this actually returns this query, this crazy, object thing. And let's see. So how do tag template strings work? So we're going to really quickly go through how they work. I said it's a template string and a function. It's a burrito. Got it. So this is sort of the simplest function tag template thing. You notice the first argument is all the strings, and the second are all the values. So all the stuff that goes in the hole here. And so when we run this, we see that in the strings, we have hello, and we have the exclamation mark. And then the values, we have value arguments. And then, yeah, so this doesn't really do anything. So here I've created a tag that just sort of re-implements what a template tag does by default, which is concatenate them. So if you see, we go through each string, and then we find the value at the same index, we concatenate it together, and boom, hello, no operation. Okay, so now we know what they are, kind of how they work. What else can we do with tag template strings? And this is really interesting. So a big area is embedding domain-specific languages. So like we can build single file web components with HTML and CSS in JavaScript. I don't know if that's good, if that's bad, that's up to you. We could also port Bash's backtick syntax to execute shell commands. Also, I don't know if this is good or bad. This sounds very unsafe, but we're going to roll with it. I'm really into compilers, and you can actually do meta programming where we can hook into the Babel compiler infrastructure and inspect abstract syntax trees in real time. to like improve our understanding of the JavaScript language. And then I did a crazy thing where I made a promise aware template string. So you can actually await on it and all the values. And then finally, this came up maybe last week, but someone started simulating quantum computing circuits with tag template string. Let's run through these. All right, so this is what I was talking about with the single file components. And this is using a library called lit element. And this is cool because it's a class, and then you have the CSS here, HTML, and you define your component, and then you can use it. This is pretty cool. Nice use of tag template strings. Here's the shell tag. And because it's so flexible, we can just hook into other libraries. So I installed shell.js, and then I just wrap around shell.exec. And then all of a sudden, execute arbitrary shell commands, which may or may not be good or safe. And then this syntax comes from like Bash. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. Perl, Ruby. All right, so this one's really cool. So when I was learning JavaScript, I hadn't done any math in a while. I went to school for tuning. And so I'd always get confused about how things associate. And so with this syntax tree tag, we actually inspect the AST at runtime. So I can see that, oh, multiplication precedes addition. Great. All right, and then here's the promise tag. Okay, so I made a promise, I interpolated it. It waits for all the promises, and it seems simple, but then implementing it's kind of crazy. I don't know. This is basically it returns a promise, and then within that promise, it resolves all the promises. And once all those promises have resolved, then it resolves the string. You could do really bad things. I don't know, have like API calls inside of a template string. Just nonsense. And then finally, this came up recently. This guy created a library for simulating quantum circuits. And as a shorthand, he has a template thing where you can define the circuit. So on the website, go there and you put it in, and then you get this quantum circuit. I don't know what any of it is, but it just sounds cool because it's quantum. You can go there and check it out. Finally, thank you for your time. Thanks for listening. You can find more examples. I trimmed it down. I had maybe even more examples than this, and the slides at this URL. Thank you.
Yay.
Hooray for a wild and silly romp through things you really shouldn't do with template tag literals, but I'm totally going to do them anyway because JavaScript lets us do whatever we want, including putting emojis in variable names. Try it. It's great.
Prop comedy, also wonderful.
Yes, for when you don't even need to make a house when you want to drill your props through. So thank you, Raymond. That was great. And also brings us to our final talk of WaffleJS May 2020. Now that we've learned how to do wild and silly things with JavaScript template tags in order to render a web page, let's hear from Rodney on how to make a web page without using a single whit of HTML.
All right, sounds good. How do we do this? Beautiful. Wait, no, wrong button. There we go. Sorry about this, y'all. And here we are with, here is how to make web pages without using HTML, a brief guide by me. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Rodney Foles. My pronouns are he, him. I work for Nextdoor, the neighborhood hub, and I work on our design system there. It's a lot of great fun. But But in my spare time, I really like to delve into how the web works and really how the web evolved. And so let's talk about how to build web pages without using HTML. I wanted to clarify something because when I first pitched this talk, people were, like without using HTML, does that mean using Angular? Does that mean using React? No, it does not. It means if you view source, and these were live screenshots taken right next to each other, you see nothing. Let's get into how you do it. So we're going to start off with an index.html, a style.css, pretty standard, some artisanally crafted code here. And we're going to eventually turn this into the total lack of HTML that you saw on the previous slide. Let's start off with the first few elements here. We can actually get rid of all of these. So the doc type we can drop. Doc types are used to put browsers into strict mode instead of what's known as quirks mode. This makes browsers parse HTML and JavaScript and CSS better according to standards, but because we have no HTML, we don't actually need that, so we can get rid of it. HTML we can omit entirely as long as we don't have a comment as the very first thing inside of it, which is the case here. We don't have that. Same with head. As long as there is at least an element inside of head, we can omit that tag too. And ditto body. There are a few more conditions for body being omitted. We can't have a script or a style element or a space character or a comment, but as that is not the case, we can just get rid of those. So they're gone. Goodbye. One thing to note too is that just because we omit them does not mean those elements are not there. They are implicit. So here is a quick screenshot of me opening a totally blank page in the browser in the inspector. We still see HTML head and body. We just don't code them. This is very important for later. Next up, we have two more elements we can get rid of, the meta viewport and the title. Sadly, there's no real analog to getting this data back. There could have been. There is an @rule @viewport that is surprisingly only supported by Internet Explorer, no other browser. And then of course, title. There used to be, and technically I guess still is, a spec for a title header that you would send, maybe like you would send a cookie header. Unfortunately, no browser implements this. And as you can see, the spec was last modified on May 3rd, 1994. So no one's really gone back to reevaluate the situation. So we're just going to get rid of those. We just lose that. That's the price we have to pay. All right. Next up, just a quick recap. We got rid of some of our HTML. We still have these styles. We got to go somewhere from here, right? So we're going to start off by replacing the styles. They used a body selector. We're actually going to give the div in our HTML a class name, class container. This is so we no longer reference body. We want to reference according to a root element that we control. In this case, it's going to be div container. So we've done that. And we're going to take all of those styles and throw them in the HTML. The main thing we're going for here, we want an element tree that's made up of a single root element that we control. So not like body implicitly, but like an explicit one that we have. And it can't have any external references. So in the previous slide, we had this link rel style sheet. That's an external reference, right? We're calling out to style.css. We can't have that. That's why we're bringing it inside. We also have further down the page some images, image source equals, et cetera, et cetera. That's also not allowed. So we're going to do something that's really bad from like a web performance perspective. And we're going to inline them using data URLs. So what we've done here is we've taken the images that the image tag was pointing at, ran them through a base64 encoder, and then pasted the entire string in the source. This is really, really long, like really, really long, because we've taken an entire image and turned it into HTML. But it works. But there's no real limit on the length of a data URL, so we can just do that. And then after that, you can see on the right-hand side, there's no more styles. On the left-hand side, we have this pretty big blob of HTML that is contained in a single root element, just like we wanted. Now what? We turn it into an SVG. You can do that. You totally can. I'm not sure if you can see it because of the whole like live streamy thing. I was hoping for like a presentation, but it's we take SVG, XML namespace, blah, 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 SVG. Inside of that, we have a foreign object element. Now, foreign object is something you can throw inside an SVG. and basically reset the namespace that the browser interprets the rest of the SVG as. And so what we're doing is we're then taking another XML namespace for XHTML and putting it back on the div. So we've gone from an HTML file with CSS to an HTML with inline styles to an SVG with a foreign object of HTML with inline styles, and then of course all the other HTML that we had going. And then this is great because we can actually add back one more line of HTML. We're going to make a new style sheet. I called it illusion.css on my personal site, so I'm going to keep that here. And we're going to take the same trick that we did to avoid referencing external images, and we're going to run the entire SVG element through a base64 encoder and make that the content of the, we're going to make that the content of the pseudo element after body. Remember, we can do this because even though we omitted the body tag, the browser still implicitly puts a body element there. And so we can use the after pseudo element of that body element and place content inside of it. And if we actually let this content continue, it goes on for pages and pages and pages and pages because base64 encoding is not very efficient, but it gets the job done for us. So again, don't do this like in production or anything, but we're not in production right now. We still have one line of HTML though, right? And I promised you no HTML at all whatsoever. And so what we're going to do is we're going to delete that line temporarily. I mean, technically permanently, but we'll replace it with something. And instead, we're going to make our own little server. So this is on the back end, right? Server.js. You'd run it like you'd run like Node Server.js or like Node Express or whatever, right? It's using, I think, Express's static, serve static, if I remember that right from when I wrote it. And we're going to serve the public folder. Inside the public folder, we used to have this index.html. We still have our illusion.css. And we're going to add one more thing. So remember how I said there was a title header? In the same definition, there's a link header as well. And it is analogous to the link rel element in HTML. This one is supported only by Firefox. So this unfortunately only works in Firefox, but like really there's no other browser you should be using. And with that, we're complete. We have the server. If we see a request for an HTML file, instead we set a link header to our illusion.css with a rel of style sheet, and it becomes parsed and interpreted like so. Here's a quick behind the screenshot. As you can see, we have, this is still completely empty HTML, but the content you're seeing here was sent over from that illusion.css header. You can see I'm hovering over the content, and it looks pretty close to the web page that you're looking at on your left. And then in the second screenshot, you can see that link header showing up. This is the behind the scenes. It's how the magic happens. That's it. Yeah, there you go. HTML, no HTML at all whatsoever, but you still got a perfectly good website. You can look at it. You can read it. Caveats, Google doesn't understand this. My SEO took a nosedive after I implemented this for my personal site, but it works. There you go. So that's all I got. Thank you so much. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. You don't have to, obviously, but yeah, take care, y'all.
Yay!
Hey,
That was wild.
that was wild. I've seen some wild and crazy things for writing HTML, including PHP, my favorite, and React, my other favorite, but doing it with base64, even better than writing in assembly. So thank you for bringing your excellent giraffe onesie.
Oh, absolutely. I was inspired during the intermission. You were talking about him, so.
Thanks. Very stylish.
Thank you.
So, Podge, do you have some more slides we can show off? So, hooray, this brings us to the end of May 6th WaffleJS. So, thank you to all our wonderful speakers tonight. Give them a quick call out again. That was Jenna from Brooklyn, Gemma from the Exploratorium. We miss Andrew, but Max was a great ukulele show for us. Raymond is fun to hear about shenanigans with JavaScript, and Rodney, a wonderful giraffe. Next slide, please. So if you too would like to be as cool as Max and Andrew, then you can submit your proposal to perform at WaffleJS. You can play ukulele, you can sing, you can laugh, you can make us laugh. Whatever you want to do, drop us a line at perform@wafflejs.com, or you can look at our GitHub and drop a note on the CFP issue that we have in there. Next slide, please. And it's time to clean up your own personal spaces because we don't have to clean up the barn. The one benefit of being at home.
Yeah, normally this would end at like 9 p.m., but I'm going to say, you know what? If you've got like 5 to 10 minutes left, why don't you spend that on your space, the space you're spending all your time in right now? Just like invest like 10 minutes, like take like 1 or 2 things, just put them where they go. You're going to feel really good. Or don't.
This is yes, my therapist. I talked to her earlier and she's just like, yeah, you should clean up your office. Stop like living in a mess. It's messy in there. You'll feel messy. So like throw some trash away, wash a dish or two. Save some for tomorrow, maybe. But yeah, do we have a next slide? I think, is that it? Yes, so hooray, it's WaffleJS. We'll be back next month, first Wednesday as usual. And yes, June 3rd. So you can buy your tickets if you want to hang out on Zoom with us again and support our local SF businesses during this time of less delicious donuts. Tell your friends we're here. Tell them to come talk. Tell them to come perform. Tell them to come hang out and chit chat on Discord with us. It's been great having you all here. And I think we were thinking of doing a little close it out karaoke. I don't know, Pod should looks a little I see a thumbs up from Max. I feel like we should probably should we turn off the YouTube before we karaoke?
I was thinking probably turning off the YouTube.
Yeah,
all right.
if you insist.
Well, goodbye, YouTube friends.
Bye, YouTube.